Let me ask you a question. The schools that we've read about and seen recently with the school shootings, for example, were those schools, did those schools have a K9?
No,
No.
no.
If they had, there is a chance that it would have
Again,
been.
it's a deterrent. I would look in the
By the
Disney
way, I've
movie.
seen it at airports. You see the
Right,
people that see just the dog, and
right.
you watch these people go in a very wide circle. So to me, that's a deterrent. I'm like, oh, that guy probably has something going on, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But
I want to
I
stay
mean,
far away.
but I know what you mean. Like if you know that there are certain dogs in certain areas, you are not bringing your drugs that
No,
day. You are not doing
no.
something that day if you're scared of what the consequence could
And
be.
if you're hiring a company that says, I'm going to come in twice a semester or 2 times, during the school year, a kid will say, or anybody that's, I'll take that chance.
Right.
In other words, what are the chances that I'm going to hit on that day?
Right.
No,
So you mentioned earlier you have almost 500 applications now from whether it's
pending.
pending from people in healthcare, from schools, from police departments. How often are new dogs being, like we were talking about in Europe, being bred? And then also how often are dogs in America being lost in the line of duty?
Um, Quite a bit. And there is an officer down memorial page, and every time a canine passes,
Mhm.
they will, post it there, and it's pretty significant. It's more
Mm,
than it should be.
right.
And I'm actually working right now to try to do a breeding program with the government. And
Mhm.
I presented Congressman McCall's office something, and he said, "This is brilliant." He goes, "Why are we not doing this?"
Mm,
And I said, "We need to, if we bred them here and we knew what we were getting, we wouldn't have to go to Europe. We wouldn't
right.
have to be begging another country that, please give us what you have and sell us." Because a lot of times, how do we know that they're selling us the best possible thing?
Right. And also I'm just curious for men or women who want to get into this or thinking of getting in the police force, do they have to have dog training before they have police training?
No, no, they don't. But a lot of times when you become a police officer, the majority of the time, you're not going to go directly into K9.
Got
You're
it.
going to be an officer, I would think, a few years first to kind of get everything, under your hat, how to do.
Well, it's like
Uh,
being a doctor. You have to kind of do all the rotations, I'm assuming,
yes,
and
yes.
and get good at it all to
You know,
find the one thing you want to do.
Commissioner Bill Bratton's wife, Ricky Kleeman, sits on my advisory board. And I was at dinner with him one night, and he said, I'm sure you've been around him. He's kind of a pragmatic, stoic, you know, quiet man. And he said, "Was your dad a cop?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Grandfather, uncle, sheriff?" Mm-mm. He said, "You got in law enforcement and you didn't know anything about it?" I said, "No." And he said, how do you get the guys to listen? I mean, being a civilian and a woman, it's just got to be tough. I'm just
Mhm.
curious coming from your side." And I said, "Well, I said, when I started, these guys were so appreciative, and they still are,
Mhm.
but they would have taken, if I said, I've only got pink poodles." They would have said, "Please sign us up because we're
Mhm.
so desperate. We need this tool so bad." And I said, "So now, of course, they, tell me, I want the aerodynamic ninja version of, whatever it is they've seen."
Mhm.
And I said, so in the beginning, I would tell them my daughter was in Montessori school. So I'd say, crisscross applesauce, and you worry about your work. You
Mhm.
don't worry about your neighbor's work. And he said, if I ran the New York Police Department and said crisscross applesauce, they would have me in a van off to a rubber room somewhere. And I said, "Well, the the officers that I've worked with have been so generous. They may not can write a check
Mhm.
for $20,000, but they're so generous with their time." and they say, hey, we're going to turn to here to train. Would you like to tag along? Would you, we're going to this conference. Would you like to go and learn more? So
Right.
I'm so appreciative of those that have taken me under their wing.
Mm. Are you mostly in the fundraising business at this point? I mean, is that your big mission?
Sadly, sadly, yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. That's a blood sport in itself. And that you have friends that are established
Mhm.
and they're wealthy. You hate to keep coming back or approaching them and saying,
Of course.
"Hey, you don't want to be somebody flinches when they see you coming." Like,
Mm.
but at the same time, we've had people that say, I'm the CEO of this company and my grandchildren go to this school. How do I make sure that they have a vehicle, a dog, whatever it is I want to underwrite the whole thing because I don't want anything to happen to my children or my grandchildren.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so people get it in that aspect.
Sure.
And
But
look,
do they have the power to actually donate to a specific school if they wanted to? I mean, I guess the school would have to be on board for it.
the school would have to be on board.
Right.
And but they need to have a school resource officer or they do a contract through the local police or their sheriff's department that
Right.
they have an
So the school
officer.
does have to incur some expense to keep that animal and the police officer on staff afterward.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So they do have to be committed.
And
Um,
yeah, but
God.
it's such a great feeling. And the reward isn't instant.
Mhm.
Yes, it starts off, and if somebody calls me and says, look, we're in perfect example, Stillwater, Oklahoma
Mhm.
is the home of Oklahoma State University. I think we've given 3 or 4 dogs there. And when they called and said, we need this. So immediately what I do is I go to my Rolodex and or contacts, I guess is the new word now. I had somebody the other day say, what's a Rolodex? And I was like, we can't be friends. But I'll go and say, do I know anybody that is an alumni of the school? Do I know anybody that lives close by or that may have a connection or somebody's kids that may
Mhm.
go to that university? And then next thing I do is I go to telling all my secrets here. I'll go to the tax rolls. Who's the richest person? Who pays the most
Right. That's
for
smart.
a
Yeah.
house or taxes or things like that? And then you start the Google process and say, okay, look, I think I have over 1,000 Google alerts. I have an account that just does nothing but handles that. But if K9, Jeff Bezos, Lauren Sanchez, Bill Gates, if that's mentioned with K9 with a C or say K9 with a K, it
Mhm.
sends me an alert. If a dog takes a crap in Elon Musk's yard,
Mhm.
wherever he's living, I'm gonna get an alert that
Right.
says, K9 dog, but something, with Elon or Tesla and
Right.
because I just keep waiting for them to call. And
Right.
I said, I can't be fired. I don't take a salary. 95% of everything we raise goes straight back to the dogs.
Right.
And it's just I just don't want somebody to come to me when it's too late and say, we could have prevented this.
And that was what I was just going to say. So people
Yeah.
might not be
Familiar.
as familiar, but also you said you're having this hard time. You can't believe that people in politics, especially, are not like all on board with this because until it affects them personally, I feel like people
Exactly.
just don't get it. And they're like, well, what is the purpose of paying this extra expense to have a dog at a school, for example? But when that finally occurs, they would have said, I can't believe we
Right.
didn't invest in this for the last 5 years when we could have to prevent just today. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right?
And just think about it. I mean, in the overall scheme of things, uh, 20 or $25,000. I mean, what their investment, split that up to what
Mm,
that is a day in a school,
right.
and it's nothing.
Right.
That's
And then
nothing.
preventing the losing a life of a child.
Absolutely.
Priceless. So that wouldn't even matter. Are you guys doing fundraisers like a big event that you have once a year or anything that?
We have kind of shifted to donor salons.
What is that?
So, in other words, instead of investing money in a big rubber chicken dinner
Mm,
where, look, I don't want to go to a black tie. I can't
mhm.
imagine, I mean, there's just so many every night of the
I
week.
know. Yeah.
I'm sure Palm Beach and Texas is the same way that,
Filled with them.
sometimes there's 2 and 3 events per
Yeah.
night. So what's going to make you stand out? I rather go to somebody and say, you have this beautiful home. Love to show it off. Can you invite 50 or to 100 of your friends, and I'll give a talk and we'll have a dog come in, and we know that everybody coming there, in a sense, I don't want to say pre-qualified, but they already know the cause. They're invested. They may have children in school there, or they've been affected personally somehow, like by
Right.
drugs, or maybe somebody's overdosed or something like that. They say, you know what, this could have prevented my loved one from dying.
Mm, wow.
And
Yeah.
so we find that, that way you don't have a huge overhead with programs and entertainment, and, because everybody has to make a living, but those kind of things are what adds up.
Right. So
So
smart.
if you hit it that way, and these private donor salons, I just think is a much more intimate way of getting your message out.
Right. I'm sure people listening are fascinated by this whole story. There's so much more I could talk to you about, even on a personal level, that, maybe we'll do a whole nother time,
I
because
would love
I
that.
just feel like there's so much to get to with you. But I really wanted to focus on your cause, and the dogs and potential fundraising for you, because I think it's so important. I know in the future that someone, as big as a Lauren Sanchez, and her, Jeff Bezos' fiance, whatever he is at the moment, getting involved in something like this would really change. I mean, it doesn't change what it's about, because it's just as important, but you just need that eyeball of somebody to make it a little more mainstream. Because I think, as the reason why I had you on, it's just people really do not understand the importance of having this canine protection around them.
And a lot of it is, we'll get a big bust on TV, and in the news. We make sure we do their PR
Mm,
too throughout the lifetime. So when they turn in everything to us, we reach out to magazines, to newspapers, to we'll send out press releases for them. This is
amazing.
how many suspects they took down, and somebody will say, hey, I just saw that your dog got $1 million in cash, because dogs can sniff for currency too.
Wow.
And so we have currency dogs. We have, do you remember Jared from Subway?
Yes.
Okay.
And I remember he was caught. Wasn't it
With
like a
the
disc?
thumb drive, right?
Yes, that was
We
insane.
have, so we place those dogs too, lithium battery dogs. So I had a sheriff call me and say, I need one of those porn dogs. And I said, sir, a what? And he said, a porn dog. And I said, porn? He said, no, porn. And I said, dogs can't read. And he goes, no, but I saw it. Y'all, you got the pedophile. And I said, no, he got the jump drive off of his computer. They
Right,
smelled for the lithium battery, and whatever was on it was on it.
right,
But, that we'll get a big bust, and let's say it's $1 million cash. Somebody says, what are you going to do with all that money? And I said, we don't see any of that money.
right.
And I think that's where the misnomer comes in. Well,
Mhm.
you've taken all this in contraband and all these other things. Why don't you get to keep any of it? Because that's not how it works.
Right. Of course.
And
If people want to help, tell the listeners where they can get involved.
K9s for Cops,
Mhm.
and K9s number 4 COPS.org.
Great. Also tell people where they can find you on social media.
Social media is I'm pretty much at KK Schiller, SCHILLER, on every platform: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And I'm as easy to find as RuPaul during Pride Month. I am out there. I couldn't hide if I wanted to.
I'm just curious before I let you go, is there something that you are really hoping for in your future that you really feel like is your mission? I know you're living your purpose right now, honestly.
It
So,
is. It's just every day I wake up and I eat this, I breathe this, and this is not um, the latest accessory or a passing fancy. And this is my life. And
mhm,
I will die on this hill. And I think this is something that both sides can get behind.
mhm,
So if, somebody is not pro gun, that's what the dog is for.
mhm,
And again, it's got nothing to do with politics. This is a bipartisan issue.
right.
This affects everybody. And if you think it doesn't, ask some of those parents in Sandy Hook, or
Yeah.
ask people here in Texas that have been in church shootings. I
Yeah.
mean, it affects everybody. It sees no socioeconomic class. So if
Right.
you think you're going to be unaffected, think again.
Right. Right. Christy, thank you so much for joining us.
You
I
are a
cannot
doll, and I'm going to hit you up for a donor salon in Palm Beach.
100%. I was just going to say, you have to come visit me. We have to organize one of those. And also, I think, I mean, I'm assuming you guys do this because you said something about going to schools, but I would think it makes a lot of sense for you guys to be speaking at schools or having some of these cops come in with their
Yes,
canines and explaining to kids, because that's a
absolutely.
great path for these kids to take too. I mean, I feel like nowadays no one knows what kind of line of work they want to go into, especially
Right.
at a young age. And what an honorable profession. And kids love dogs. And,
They
I
love
just
it.
think
Well,
it's,
everybody loves dogs. And if you
yeah,
don't, well, surely there's a 12-step program for you somewhere to love a dog.
exactly. Exactly. Then you have a lot of problems that we can't even fix maybe. But, all right. Well, I really appreciate you. We are going to meet in person and I
You're a
cannot
doll.
wait for that. And best of luck. Mwah.
Thank you, honey, so much.